Dragon Ball Z Bio Broly is infamously known as the worst of the Dragon Ball Z movies, but is it as bad as a certain other movie, or is it actually the best Dragon Ball movie of all time? The intro to the movie is really bad because it's just these weird biomen that just appear with no context to what they are, meaning we have no care for them as villains. All we learn is that the fat scientist wants to expose Mr. Satan as a fraud. Why would you start a movie in this way? We have no idea who to focus on. While starting with the villain could work, the issue is that the movie doesn't show anything that would make us think that these guys would be a threat. Maybe if they had shown the Biomen's strength in some way, like having them destroy a mountain or beat a powerful fighter, we would be able to see them as a powerful threat. A good example of this is Raditz. When he easily bodied the farmer, it showed his cruelty, and his defeat of Piccolo allowed us to see Raditz as a really big threat since he just defeated the main villain of the last arc. That's how you introduce a villain. The start of Bio Broly has us basically learn nothing about the main villain or the men themselves. The movie has been complete trash so far, but could the rest be better? The song after the intro is actually pretty good with an upbeat melody. Of course, I can't show it in this video because copyright. It also is a pretty good summary of the Buu Saga to catch up the audience. It shows all the major events of the Great Saiyaman Saga and the 25th tournament, even leading into Android 18 getting the money Hercule owed her for throwing the tournament. This scene is surprisingly good as it shows us the information that helps us understand the actions of Goten, Trunks, Hercule, and Android 18. Maybe this movie isn't as bad as people say. I like the scene where 18 threatens Hercule since it is pretty funny. It also characterizes both Android 18 and Hercule, showing how intimidating 18 is and how Hercule is a coward. A goofy guy delivers a challenge to Hercule from an old friend. For some reason, we are getting Mr. Satan lore. What a world we live in. They explain some of Hercule's backstory that is nonsense. Apparently, Hercule had a friend who had trained in a martial arts dojo, but after embarrassing himself in front of Hercule by being defeated, he quits and becomes a scientist to be able to create something that could defeat Mr. Satan and prove that he is a fraud. That's Jaguar, Mr. Hercule's friend, and that's his motivation. He wants to ruin this man's life and risk the destruction of the planet, maybe even the whole universe, over a childhood rivalry. The entire movie has the dumbest purpose for happening, which now ruins the immersion of the movie. This movie is already broken beyond repair, and we are only 7 minutes into the film. The guy who delivered the message threatens to expose Hercule as a fraud if they don't accept the challenge of Jaguar and his strongest warriors. Hercule for some reason accepts, even though the possibility of people believing Jaguar is slim to none. I mean, it's shown in the Buu Saga where literally everyone gave their power to Hercule, which, I mean, like, he's literally talking from the heavens, but okay, you're just gonna give him your power. Android 18 decides to go, and Goten and Trunks sneak into the car to go. Android 18 going makes sense, since 18 knows that she could make more money from Hercule paying her to fix his problems. Goten and Trunks, on the other hand, deciding to go doesn't make sense because they already know how weak Hercule is, so why would they think that someone taking Hercule would be interesting enough for them to investigate? After this, we get an ocean scene, and it's actually pretty good, as the ocean looks pretty good in this movie. That's the one good thing in this scene. We get to see the Biomen train, and Hercule is still the best character in the movie. His comedy is the only thing that kept me watching the film. Jaguar finally appears and confronts the group. Jaguar's dog then licks Trunks' butt? A pointless scene. If I had a nickel for how many times they made a Trunks butt joke, I would have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's strange that it happened twice. Goten somehow doesn't know what biology is, but Trunks knows a lot about it because, well, he's Bulma's son, of course he does. Mr. Satan is still the best character as he then gets jumped by the Biomen. Trunks and Goten watch eating food, somehow are still not noticed yet. Mr. Satan gets scared as he gets jumped. 18 is paid off to get into the arena and takes on all the Biomen. Goten and Trunks finally step into the battle. I'm pretty sure you have noticed what I have noticed. This movie is so boring. At this point, we're 15 minutes into the movie and there hasn't been a single fight. Dragon Ball's story relies on fights to tell its narrative, yet this movie has completely ignored that. However, the combat they do show after this point is actually pretty good. I like the choreography, but what I don't like is that these fights have no meaning at all. Jaguar then finally reveals the Man of the Hour after showing off the lab where Biomen were made. After, well, being scared of all the fighters, they discover Broly. Also, this segment is really boring. Trunks and Goten freak out when they realize that Broly is still alive. Wizard, we're just gonna call him that for my mental health's sake, explains how Broly is back. To summarize, he gets Broly's DNA and combines it with biotechnology to make a perfect clone. This explanation is so dumb on so many levels. First, how the hell did he get any remains of Broly when he was blasted away in the last movie? Secondly, how did this guy even get in contact with these scientists? Thirdly, how did he and these scientists know what a Super Saiyan even is? All of these questions are left unanswered as this movie blasts off a cliff into insanity. Goten and Trunks try to destroy Broly's pod with the Kamehameha. The key somehow causes Broly to be released as a sludgy creature. How did Goten and Trunks release Broly by doing this? The movie never explains this. They literally could have just had a scientist say that the machine uses ki or something, but no, they just never explain it. They never explain anything in this movie, actually. Instead, we get lore on Hercule's childhood. Bio Broly's sludge is actually corrosive, melting a dog, but not really. 18 tries to fight Bio Broly, but her attacks do 0 damage before then getting back shots. This is consistent with the other Broly movies, but I feel that she should have did at least a bit better in the fight. Hercule is saved from death by Trunks as the entire facility is consumed by the sludge. Goten and Trunks go Super Saiyan to fight Bio Broly. They get destroyed by being consumed by Ki Blast. The entire castle is consumed by Bio Broly's sludge, including the random wizard who got Broly's DNA. Bio Broly, who could fight Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, a Gohan who trained for 7 years yet is struggling with Trunks and Goten. Somehow Goten and Trunks in a couple of months surpassed the Gohan who actually trained. To be fair, power scaling in Dragon Ball has always been insane, but it's still an issue with this movie, and it's probably even worse than Dragon Ball Super's power scaling, which is saying a lot. 18 tries to save the boys from Broly, but Krillin saves 18 instead. I actually like this scene because it pays off an earlier scene that Krillin had that I forgot to mention. Giving Krillin a win is always a good thing. Goten and Trunks continue to battle Bio. They continue to get bodied. Bio Broly continues to dominate the cast until Trunks attempts to submerge Broly in sludge. Somehow this works and Broly loses to Kid Trunks. This one was never set up and nothing told us to this point that this could have worked. They should have shown Broly getting slightly hurt when Sludge fell on him earlier instead of just having this come out of nowhere. Apparently Sludge is the main villain of this movie. Such a good movie. The sludge starts consuming the island, nearly killing Hercule. It's up to Krillin and the boys to fire a team Kamehameha to cause the water to consume the sludge to stop it from spreading. Bio Broly somehow returns, yet he just turns to stone. How anticlimactic. Such a good ending. We then see the afterlife where Goku has to head to hell to stop Broly. They were really trying to make a sequel to this piece of trash. Luckily, we got Fusion Reborn instead. One of the best Dragon Ball Z movies. This movie should have never been made. The second Broly movie had an already passable conclusion. This movie adds nothing to the franchise of Dragon Ball. It fails to set up Bio Broly as a good villain. He appears for like 10 minutes before being replaced by literal sludge. There's no setup for Broly being in the movie until like 20 minutes in. No other villain is threatening or set up well. The fights have no meaning and are just hands. The movie has barely any fights either. The only fight in the movie is against Bio Broly and it's only like 10 minutes, and there's also the one with the Biomen, but that was like 5 seconds. That barely even counts. With all the extra time without adding any extra fights, they choose not to explain anything that is actually needed to be explained, and this movie is instead just a joyride around a lab. In other words, it is really boring. The only positives are not even things exclusive to this movie, being Hercule and Krillin. Overall, this movie proves to be one of the worst Dragon Ball movies of all time, rivaling even Dragon Ball Evolution in how bad it truly is. If you want me to cover more of the Dragon Ball Z movies, especially Fusion Reborn, like the video because I'm asking for a like goal of 100 likes to continue this series. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next review. Thanks for watching.